Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker from My Favorite Things. I'm going to be making a birthday shaker card today using the Fairy Tale Friendship stamp set. I thought that this stamp set would be perfect to make a birthday card for my little girl who's turning 5 this month. I really liked the image of the little princess and the castle, and I think that she'll like that as well. I really love this stamp set. It also has a dragon, which I don't use on this card, but I really like that dragon as well, and I'm sure I'll use it on future cards. But for this one, I stuck with this princess as well as the castle, which I didn't stamp on camera, but you'll see me color it later. I stamped both of them with a Copic Friendly black ink on Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock. There are 2 other princess images in the stamp set, but I decided to go with this little princess because I thought that she looked the most like my daughter. My daughter has really long curly hair just like the image, and I also tried to pick out colors to make it look more like my daughter as well. This is something that I like to do when I make cards for really young kids. If there's characters on them, I try to make those characters look like the kid, because then you can tell them when you give them the card, you can say, hey, that's you, and they'll often really get a kick out of that. Next, I colored in the castle for my card. Now, at the top of this paper, you can see that I did some color testing before I started coloring. I was trying to figure out exactly what color I wanted to use for the top of the towers. When I first was going into it, I thought that I was going to do pink because my daughter is a big fan of pink. But as I was testing colors, I realized that I was really liking this gray look for it. So I went with that, and I'm going to throw in some pink later by adding those to the flags. So just some accents of the pink color. I also decided to do the shading with this ash rose color, so that gives me a little bit more pink, but it's a much more muted pink. And then once I added in all of the shading, I used the colorless blender to blend out all of that shading so that it kind of fades from the ash rose into white. You'll see that before I used that colorless blender, all of the shading had really harsh lines on it and it wasn't blended out. And that's because I don't have a color that is lighter than that ash rose to blend into the white. And whenever I don't have a color to blend into the white, I use the colorless blender. And you can see that after I added that colorless blender, all those harsh lines went away and it looks much more blended. Alright, so once all of that coloring was done, I used the coordinating dies to cut out the girl and the castle, and then I set them aside and I moved on to this background. For this background, I have an A2 size piece of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock, as well as the Slimline Cloud stencil. I'm using a blending brush to blend Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink along the top of that stencil all the way down, shifting the stencil so that I have different parts of the clouds every time. You may have noticed that there was pink ink on the stencil when I started blending, and that's because this is actually the second time I did this. The first time I used Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide ink, and that was just too dark. So I changed it and went to the Spun Sugar, and that was a much better look. Next, I grabbed a green piece of cardstock and I freehand cut a curved shape across the top of it, and I adhered that to my card background using my tape runner. And I also grabbed a piece of slate cardstock, this one just with a straight edge across the top, and I glued that down on top of the green, leaving just a little bit of that green showing. I trimmed the excess paper off of the sides, and then I grabbed my castle image and I adhered that down using liquid adhesive. I grabbed the largest arch from the Inside and Out Stitched Arch die set, and I die cut that out of an A2 size panel of cardstock. This is going to be the window for my shaker card. So to make that window, I then grabbed a piece of acetate, and I'm going to glue that on the back using my tape runner. I had to make this a shaker card because my daughter really likes shaker cards. I think that shaker cards are always a great hit with little kids. I added some doubled up foam tape all the way around the edge of that shaker window so that it's completely closed in, and then I picked out some sequins and put them on top of my background, and then I closed up the shaker card and made sure to really secure all of those edges by pressing down. I grabbed the little princess image and I added some liquid adhesive to the back and I glued it right to the corner so that you can still see that castle, but it looks like it's off in the distance. The shaker really kind of helps to add some depth to the card. Next, I grabbed the Arched Happy Birthday die set. I cut the shadow out of black cardstock and the letters out of white cardstock, and then I adhered all of those letters using liquid adhesive, and I used my tweezers, which really helped me place those neatly. I think that this sentiment works perfectly with the arched background that I used because they're both arched, so they kind of look like they were meant to be together. I decided to pop this sentiment up with foam tape, so I added a few strips of that along the back, and then I placed that along the very top of the arch. Now, this still isn't a card yet. I do need a card base, so I grabbed an A2 size white card base, and I'm adhering the whole thing onto that with my tape runner. At this point, I was thinking the card was looking pretty good. I just wanted to add some final details. I grabbed my white gel pen and I added some highlights to the hair and the dress on the little girl. And then I took out my Wink of Stella glitter brush to add a little bit of sparkle to the top of the hat on the tassel thing. I don't think it's called a tassel, but we're going to go with that. And then I also added some sparkle on the white part of the dress at the bottom. When you have a little fairy tale princess like this, you got to have a little bit of sparkle. After that, this card is all done, and I really love the way that it turned out. I think that the castle on the inside is really cute, and more importantly, I think that my daughter is going to love it. I hope you all enjoyed this video and that you got some inspiration for your own cards. I hope you have a wonderful day today, and I'll see you next time.